You don't carry weapons, he doesn't traffic drugs. It doesn't threaten anyone. You wear a suit. You use Excel. You use LinkedIn. And yet, you are one of the most dangerous people on the continent. Because while soldiers risk their lives on the streets, you sit in an air-conditioned room, drink coffee, and make $300 million disappear before lunch. You don't kill anyone. You turn blood into paper, roll in a company in real estate, property inherited as a legacy. Welcome to the most lucrative, most invisible, and most destructive career that exists. Welcome to your life as a money launderer for a Mexican cartel. Subscribe now. This video goes deeper than any documentary has gone before. Level 1. The Desperate Accountant. You are 34 years old. Accountant, Guadalajara. 6 years at the same office, $2,800 per month. A 4-year-old daughter, a debt of $47,000. You are not corrupt. You're cramped. There is a huge difference between the two things. Until Friday. An old client shows up, the owner of a gas station. Friendly, punctual. He says he has a friend who needs a trustworthy accountant. The meeting takes place in a cafe. The friend speaks little. He smiles with cold eyes. Place an envelope on the table. $12,000 in cash. You look at the envelope. You think about your daughter. You're thinking about the payment that's due on Monday. You take the envelope. What changes in your life? In 3 months, you processed $800,000 in dirty money without fully understanding what you were doing. You adjusted numbers. You closed accounts. You made everything look clean. Your commission, $3,500 per month plus $8,000 in quarterly bonus. The event. On a Wednesday night, the cold-eyed man calls. We need you to manage more companies, double the pay. You open your mouth to say that you need to think, and he realizes, from the silence on the other end, that it's not a question. Level 2. The Ghost Entrepreneur. You resigned. Your colleagues congratulated you. Your former boss said you were always the most talented. They don't know anything. Now you have your own office. The sign on the door reads, GFM Business Consulting. Official clients, 6 medium-sized companies. Actual clients, 23 companies across 4 states and 2 Caribbean islands. You are 36 years old. You earn $22,000 per month. The debt disappeared. The house improved. You don't tell anyone where the money comes from. How much do you move? Between $4 and $6 million per month. You don't handle the physical money. It arrives at the establishments brought by people you've never met. You only adjust the numbers. You only close the books. You feel distant enough to feel safe. You still don't understand that distance is not protection. The event. It's a Tuesday morning. The phone rings. He is the manager of the bank where 3 of his companies have accounts. Friendly tone, caring voice. Our compliance department has detected unusual transactions. It may be necessary to clarify the origin of some of the deposits. You turn it off. He stares at the wall for 40 minutes. Then call the man with the cold eyes. I need more tools and more money. He replies with a sentence. You'll have both. But now you'll need to disappear too. Level 3. The Cash Expert. You are 38 years old. $85,000 per month, divided into 3 accounts in 3 countries. On the surface, a financial consultant with an impeccable tax record, pays taxes, files all, declarations, a model taxpayer. Below, a structure with 11 restaurants, 3 gas stations, and 2 import companies processing between $18 and $24 million per month. What has changed in your life? You stopped sleeping, not all at once. In parts. 3 hours here, 2 there. You spend 14 hours a day on encrypted messages that self-destruct after being read. You read every news story about anti-money laundering operations as if it were an exam you could fail. There's a gray car parked on the street in front of your office that's been there for 3 days. It could be someone from the building. It can be from anyone. You can't stop looking at him. The event. You open the newspaper one morning and see the U.S. Treasury Department has launched a new task force called FinCEN, specializing in tracking exactly the type of transaction you created. You read the statement 3 times, then read it 6 more times. You shut down the computer. You open it again. You're reading this for the 10th time. You notice that your hands are trembling slightly. You need someone from the inside, someone who knows what they're looking for before they even look for it. Which level has surprised you the most so far? Comment below and leave a like. It helps a lot. Level 4, the front company operator. You are 39 years old, an accountant who works for you, well paid not to ask questions, an offshore lawyer in Luxembourg, a former World Bank employee hired for $200,000 annually as a regulatory consultant. He knows exactly what you do. He decided that $200,000 a year is worth his conscience. How much do you move? $340 million in the last fiscal year. 41 companies in 7 countries. 2 boutique hotels in Lisbon, 14 million combined. 42 apartments in Miami, Panama, and Dubai. Startups in Silicon Valley. Logistics warehouses in Monterey. His name does not appear on any document. You are the architect that nobody knows exists. The event. On a Thursday morning, you receive a message. One of its operators, the man responsible for the currency exchange network on the border, was arrested. He knows a lot, not about you, but regarding the structure. You go 72 hours without sleep, closing down businesses, transferring assets, replacing contacts. When it's over, you're sitting in your office chair, your eyes burning, and you realize something with a clarity you've never had before. You don't control the operation. The operation controls you. You can't pause. You can't leave. You know too much to be dismissed as a simple problem. People who know too much in this world have 2 destinies. They go up, or they disappear. You decide to go up. Level 5, the financial architect. You are 42 years old. You have no friends. You have strategic relationships. He learned this difference the day he cut off contact with the only man he considered a confidant, because he asked the wrong question. He asked where the money came from. You never answered his phone again. How much do you move? Between $60 and $80 million per month. In 1 year, almost $1 billion. You live in a $2.3 million house in Mexico City, registered to a Portuguese holding company, which belongs to another holding company in the Cayman Islands, which belongs to a trust in the Virgin Islands whose ultimate beneficiary is a name that doesn't exist. You have a girlfriend who believes you're a mergers and acquisitions consultant. You love her, to the extent that you are still capable of loving anything. You will never be able to tell the truth. You know that, not her. The event. A journalist from the New York Times publishes a series of reports on money laundering through luxury real estate in the U.S. She doesn't know you exist, but in the 3rd article she mentions a scheme in Miami. You recognize the structure. It's similar to yours. Too similar. You spend an entire week following every new text she publishes, monitoring the sources, calculating how much she knows. You're feeling something you haven't felt in years. I'm not afraid of being arrested, fear of being seen. Because the moment you become visible, the game is over. And then a message arrives in the secure app. From the top. We need to talk about expansion. You're going to Monterey on Thursday. You are going, you always will. Level 6, the cartel banker. You are 44 years old. The few people who know you exist call you El Contador Mayor, the chief accountant. Don't tell anyone. You're accounting for billions for an entire organization. How much do you move? Under his direct management, $4.2 billion in assets distributed globally. Integrated over the last 5 years, $6.8 billion. Hidden personal assets, $47 million in 11 countries. Declared assets, an apartment in Lisbon and modest financial investments. You are, officially, an upper-middle-class man with good investment choices. In reality, you are richer than most CEOs of the largest companies in Mexico. What has changed in your life? You have 6 contacts within banks in 4 countries. Compliance analysts, account managers, people with sufficient access to suppress alerts and ignore suspicious transactions. Each one receives between $80,000 and $200,000 per year. None of them know that the others exist. You are more rigorous in your regulatory analysis than most of the banks you are defrauding. The event, 2 events, in the same week. First, the U.S. Department of Justice arrests a Swiss banker in Miami. You discover through your channels that he had indirect contact with one of your structures in the Cayman Islands. 3 layers of distance, probably undetectable. Probably. Second, one of their 60 account operators simply disappears, without warning, no message, without explanation. You don't know if you were arrested. He ran away. He's dead. Are you cooperating with the authorities? And the impossibility of knowing is the most terrifying part. You spend 2 weeks sleeping 3 hours a night, dismantling everything he touched. 14 accounts, 3 companies, 230 million in traceable transactions. When it's over, when you finally breathe, a message arrives from above. This time it's not a call-up. This is a warning. Caution isn't enough when the volume is this high. You need a new level of protection. You understand, one more step, the last one. Level 7, the man who hides billions. You are 47 years old. You wake up at 6:17 a.m. every day, not because it uses an alarm clock, because their nervous system has been conditioned by chronic stress to never fully rest. You drink coffee alone, in an 80-square-meter kitchen, in an apartment that isn't in your name, in a city you didn't choose and that you move to every 18 months. You have lived in 6 countries in the last 4 years. You speak 4 languages. You don't have a permanent address. You don't have a routine that anyone from the outside could describe. You're a ghost with a credit card. How much do you manage? Under his supervision, $11.4 billion in global assets. Integrated over the last 8 years, approximately 18 billion, more than the annual GDP of Montenegro, of Barbados, of Belize. You hid more money than the gross domestic product of entire nations. Your cumulative personal earnings, $94 million. Practically accessible, $31 million. The rest are buried in structures so deep that even you would take days to access them. What has changed in your life? You never use the same phone for more than 45 days. You never repeat a route. You never discuss business in closed environments. All meaningful conversations happen while walking, outdoors, in busy places. You learn to read human behavior as a survival tool. You notice glances that last a second longer than usual. You notice cars appearing twice on different routes. You can tell when a waiter takes longer than they should to bring the bill. You've become a risk detection machine. And the problem with becoming a risk detection machine is that you start seeing risk in absolutely everything. The event, your lawyer in Singapore, 6 years of work, the highest level of trust you can still offer, is discreetly detained by Interpol during a layover in Frankfurt. You'll find out through your alert system. 11 hours after the arrest. You have an 11-hour head start. In 11 hours, you close 23 companies. Transfer assets from 8 jurisdictions. Replace 4 entire structures. Send coded messages to 6 contacts. When the sun rises, you're on a plane with a passport that no agency in the world associates with your real name. You look up at the clouds below and realize something you had never formulated so clearly before. You no longer know who you are. Not in a philosophical sense, not in a literal sense. You have 4 active identities. You respond to 3 different names. You have fictional childhoods that you can describe in detail because you studied for hours to do so. Who are you when you're not being any of those characters? You can't answer. And this inability to respond is more terrifying than any investigation, any denunciation, any police operation. Level 8, the fall. You are 51 years old, 4 million apartment in Dubai, view of the sea, perfect silence. Air conditioning at the exact temperature you prefer, and you are completely, absolutely hopelessly alone. The fall is not what you imagined. You pictured helicopters, SWAT operations, handcuffs, cameras. Its fall is more silent, and even more devastating. The first sign: your daughter is 21 years old. That 4-year-old girl who was in the back of your mind when you picked up the envelope. She doesn't know what you do. She grew up thinking her father was a consultant who traveled a lot. She spent her childhood waiting for weekends that you canceled. She spent her adolescence texting phone numbers that disappeared because you needed to change your number. She calls on a Sunday morning. You answer. She says, with a calmness that hurts more than any accusation, that she stopped trying to understand where you were, that she built her life without you, that she's fine, that she doesn't need anything. She called just to let us know she's getting married, and that he won't invite you to the wedding because he doesn't know how to explain to the groom who you are. She's not angry. She is at peace. A peace that completely excludes you. You turn it off. You can stare at the sea for 2 hours without thinking about absolutely anything. The investigation, 4 months later. A joint task force between the U.S. Department of Justice, Europol, and Mexico's Financial Intelligence Unit. They tracked $2.3 billion in transactions over 11 years. They reached 3 of their structures. Only 3. Dozens. But they arrived. You spend 6 months taking apart whatever can be taken apart, burying what cannot be moved, burning trails with a coolness that borders on the admirable. You are not under arrest. You'll probably never be arrested. You're too good for this. But the investigation will continue, and the world is getting smaller. The real imprisonment: you have $94 million available. It controls structures worth more than $11 billion. He has passports from 4 countries. You can go anywhere in the world early tomorrow morning, and there's absolutely nowhere to go. Because going where, it means becoming someone. And being someone implies having an identity, a history, a past that people can know. You don't have any of those things. You have money. You have power. You are invisible. And invisibility, you discover at 51 years old at 3 in the morning in a luxury apartment, is not protection. It is absence. The absence of everything that makes a life a life. The final moment, you open one of the encrypted notebooks. Not for work, just to look. You run your fingers over the numbers, the company names, the structures that took decades to build. It's a masterpiece. Truly one of the most sophisticated financial constructs ever created by a single person. And absolutely no one in the world can know that she exists. No one can admire that. No one can recognize it. No one can give you credit. You built an empire that required you to completely disappear in order to exist. You close the notebook. Look at the Dubai Sea beginning to lighten with the first sign of dawn. And think, not envelope. In that envelope containing $12,000 on a Friday afternoon. What if I had returned it? But you know, you've always known, that the answer doesn't change anything. The cage has no bars. He has bank accounts, offshore companies, fake passports, and apartments with ocean views. But it's a cage. And you threw the key away so carefully so long ago that even you don't know where it is anymore. Closing. This is the story of hundreds of real people who will never appear on any wanted list. It is the invisible ones who make organized crime work, not with violence, with spreadsheets, with patience, with, intelligence. And with the highest price that exists, life itself, exchanged so gradually that the transaction never seemed final, until it's too late. If this video made you think, comment which level was the most disturbing, and leave a like so this content reaches more people. Is that video appearing on the screen now? It follows the same logic, but with an ending you won't expect. Click there.